Ayan na mga kameta. Talagang ayan na. Akala natin end of the week na. So sabi ko baka medyo slow news cycle, medyo mag ano na lang tayo, mag recap na lang tayo. And then boom, within the past 24 hours, ang dami natin update nakita. Kanina umaga nakita ko may update dyan dun sa kaso ni Bantag. May latest case na naman ang final ng ating mga ahensya ng hustisya. Tapos dito rin meron tayong update. Again, one more cabinet reshuffle mga kameta. One more, no? May nanagdag na naman na bagong cabinet member. Now we have a national security advisor, former AFP chief of staff, and former DILG secretary, of course, General Anyo. So we have not one but multiple former Duterte generals that turned into cabinet members will now also serve in the Marcos Jr. presidency. So we had Carlito Galvez Jr., General Galvez, who took over the Department of National Defense just earlier this week after dun sa reshuffle na nangyari sa AFP leadership. And then now we also have the new National Security Advisor who used to be also an AFP military chief and also a DILG secretary. So General Alnyo is there. So wala na po si former Secretary of National Security or National Security Advisor Clarita Carlos, yung ating former professor. Nag-step down na po siya at nag-move siya into a much more research-oriented agency within our state institution. Pag-usapan natin ng mabuti yan mga kameta. Talagang sa Pilipinas, no, talagang walang slow news. Sabi ko talaga, ito na, magre-recap na lang tayo. Sabi ko, patulan ko pa yung topic na, ano, di ba, yung luxury sa Singapore, na nilait-lait yung isang kababayan natin kasi sabi niya, luxury yung, ano yan, yung, anong brand yan? Keith, whatever, Charles and Keith ba yan? Whatever. Tapos binash-bash siya kasi hindi daw luxury yan, parang fast fashion lang yan. Ayan, tuloy, na-meet niya yung founders. That's a Singaporean brand yata, no, or something like that. Sorry, I'm not into those kinds of things. Hindi tayo TikToker pa. So yun mga kameta. Sabi ko yun na lang i-discuss ko. Baka siguro sabi ko wala nang political news. Medyo slow news na. Balikan natin yan. And then boom. Kanina umaga nakita ko ito may kaso na sa Bureau of Customs. Ito pag-usapan natin. May updates na naman tayo sa Bantag, no? Bantag issue. Ayan. So Bureau of Correction has filed torture and obstruction of justice complaints against Bantag and Zulueta. Basahin lang natin yan mga kameta. Tignan natin yung mga latest dito. Talagang walang katapusan itong issue ng Bantag na yan. Kasi, and it also reveals some very, very deep problems within the Philippines penal system. Nasabi ko talagang malaking problema yan. So, let's go through the news. So, kanina po, complaints were filed by Bureau of Correction of torture and infliction of serious physical injury against its former chief, Gerald Bantag, no? The complaints were filed on behalf of two persons deprived of liberty, PDLs, identified by their aliases Luis and Rodel. A complaint of obstruction of justice was also filed against Bantag's right-hand man, yung former deputy niya for security affairs, si Ricardo Zulueta. The two PLDs claimed that Bantag had stabbed one of them in the right palm and the other in the left thigh with a creased dagger in a fit of drunken rage in February last year. Oof, that's parang medyo next level yun. So both Bantag and Zulueta were earlier charged with, yan, talagang, so officially na-charge na rin sila in relation dun sa kaso ni the late broadcaster Percy Lapid, no? Pati dito, no? Cristino Villamor Palanya also, no? Who was pinpointed by self-confessed gunman Joel Escorial. Grabe naman to, ibang klase to. So, there are some developments on this front. Let's not forget, of course, a lot of these people were appointed during Tatay Digong's time. So, there also, of course, at some point, there are going to be questions about what kind of appointments were done or were undertaken under the previous administrations. There are also going to be discussions about whether tama yung bara-bara style na ginawa natin under the previous administration when it comes to issues like law and order, like drug war, etc. So, for me, mga anak ng ano yan mga issues and kaso yan So I think this is gonna go deep in the coming months and coming years, and we don't know how deep this can go, no? But at least we're seeing right now na nag-expand itong issue ni Bantag, and now also si Zulueta now facing this kind of cases, no? So as I said, talagang when it comes to dealing with the law and order issue, walang shortcut dyan. And what you need are people who are calibrated, calculated, composed, and people who can enforce existing laws, no, in the most effective way possible. And ang problem kasi natin, at least based on the allegations, is that maraming shortcut na ginawa and shortcuts that are potentially against the law, no? Kaya itong mga kaso na fina-file ngayon. Let's see where this is gonna go, mga kameta. Balikan natin ang issue na to. Actually, one thing I wanted to also discuss more dito sa mga metas natin, ito yung mga hearings ni Tulfo, no? Si Idol Tulfo, no? Na sobrang daming natutuwa dyan because he's really, really taking it to the next level when it comes to investigations within Senate. Of course, marami natuwa when he took on the land grabbers, diba? Or alleged land grabbers. And alam natin, of course, sino mga nag-react dun sa Senate because they felt na may imputation and all. So let's see where this is going. But ako, in my opinion, Tulfo could be really a top contender for the highest office 6 years down the road. And in the coming years, if he plays his cards well, we can see talaga yung potential ni Tulfo, no? So far, more positives than negatives. So I would say overall net positive yung performance ni Tulfo. And I'm saying this not necessarily as someone who's not necessarily a fan of how they do things, but in fairness, I think so far is doing far better than many people expected. And as I said, down the road, there will be very, very interesting situation, especially if he keeps his current momentum. I think he'll be in a very strong position to go all the way for the highest office of the land. No, so I don't believe that the current vice president is necessarily shoo-in for the highest office. I think the situation is very fluid. Nakikita din natin na mga people, LGU leaders like, of course, mayor friend natin si Mayor of Baguio, Magalong, is also gaining more and more national profile, no, and at the same time gaining more and more national critics, no, because he's taking a very principled and evidence-based position ukol sa mga iba't ibang issue, including yung red tagging nangyari sa ilalim ng mga nakaraan na administrations, not to mention yung mga kababalakan at saka mga bara-barang style na ginawa na clearly we see has made the problem worse, no, as we say, no, when just like in medicine, no, if you don't have a proper diagnostics, you give the wrong medicine, you make the situation worse. Kaya parati natin sinasabi, huwag kayong masyadong magpa-impress doon sa mga tatay style politics niyan, because what we really need, guys, is a systematic, talagang due diligence approach, no, hindi yung bara-bara lang na provides short-term emotional satisfaction but no such thing as long-term sustainable solutions. If anything, it can make the situation worse, no? Yan ang parati natin sinasabi, as more investigations come in, as more months come in, as far as the new administration is concerned, the more we realize ano yung mga kababalakan, kapalpakan nangyari under the previous administration. The very things we were saying back in the day, but walang nakikinig masyado sa atin. But now we're all being vindicated in one way or another. And of course, gusto natin ng justisya when it comes to case of Kapersi, no? That was a really, really tragic case and worrying case, and we want to see some element of justisya. Now, what's also interesting is that we don't know if what's happening right now is necessarily a reflection of instability and lack of leadership, or actually a reflection of exercise of leadership, cleaning up of the mess, and hopefully beginning of a more stable and effective era under the current president. So yun yung tinitignan natin ngayon. Let's see, no. So we have one more cabinet reshuffle right now, no less than the National Security Advisor right now is also different. So nag-step down na po ang former National Security Advisor Clarita Carlos. Hindi na siya ang top National Security Advisor to the President, and now we have a new one. So let's check. Again, let's be fair. So ayon sa kanya, I have realized that it is no longer politic to continue as National Security Advisor to the President, so I have decided to migrate to another agency where my expertise on foreign defense and security policies will be of use or better use. No? So official on January 14, today, Saturday, nag-resign na po sa kabinete ng President Bongbong Marcos Jr. ang former National Security Advisor Clarita Carlos, na interview of course natin earlier last year, no. So, sabi niya, I shall continue to help build a better Philippines nonetheless. So Carlos has now been replaced by former military chief Eduardo Año, who also served as the LG chief under the previous Duterte administration. Reportedly, Dr. Carlos is headed to the Congressional Policy and Budget Research Department of the House of Representatives para more scholastic yung kanyang mga gagawin. Carlos is an academic, of course, an educator who served as the first female and civilian president of the National Defense College of the Philippines from 1998 to 2001. But of course, her stint has been, quite difficult, to put it mildly. So She was appointed by Marcos as Director General of the National Security Council of the Philippines in June 2022, and also concurrently served as the chairperson of the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict and National Task Force for the West Philippine Sea, no? And also she was the vice chairperson of the Anti-Terrorism Council. So, especially dun sa NTF-LCAC, that was a very, very, I would say, far from smooth situation there. Of course, her resignation also comes a day after she rejected calls from fellow government officials for resignation of allegedly ineffective person of the NTF-LCAC. Earlier this week, National Commission on Indigenous People NCIP Chairperson Alan Capuyan urged members of the Secretariat of National's Primary Anti-LCAC kasi sabi niya, dapat mag-resign sila kasi allegedly, quote, they failed to perform concrete actions under the new administration and only made the task force, quote, irrelevant and responsive to the developments on the ground. So there were a lot of criticism of how she approached the issue, but katulad ng sinabi natin mga kameta, we also felt that when it comes to former National Security Advisor and of course longtime Professor Carlos, I think she wanted a much more sane, sensible, calibrated approach to avoid red tagging and all of the problems that were attached to the LCAC, NTF-LCAC. So clearly that did not win her a lot of fans, especially those who wanted a much more hardline approach. Now, she also expressed the other relevant context here. She also expressed confusion with the leadership changes that happened at the AFP the other weekend, and of course that was followed shortly after by the prompt resignation of Jose Faustino Jr., the former National Defense Secretary. So this is, wow, this is, I don't know, what, 6, 7 cabinet members ay nawala over the past 7 months. So interestingly, you have a situation whereby you have a president whereby he has had as many foreign travels as cabinet reshuffles over the past 7 months. So ang dami nawala, no? So nawala yung sa executive secretary, obviously, and that kind of unleashed a whole wave of resignations and all. Then you had with Trixie in the press secretary, you had the commission on audit, then you had the DSWD, lack of confirmation, then you have the DND, and then now you have the National Security Advisor. Ang dami, di ba? Tapos wala pa yung ang tagal yung mga final appointments dun sa Department of Health, Department of Agriculture, so on and so forth, no? So 7, 8 cabinet positions have either seen reshuffles or not full-fledged appointments yet. At the same time, the president is on the verge of his 8th foreign trip. Shortly, I think tomorrow, no? By tomorrow, he has to be he'll be in Switzerland to attend the Davos World Economic Forum, as we discussed yesterday. So it's quite interesting. So as many as foreign travels as cabinet reshuffles over the past 7-8 days, and that's quite interesting thing to keep watch on. So yun, just when we thought, I'm just checking this. Just when we thought na slow weekend news na and magre-recap tayo, then boom, may mga nangyari na mga ganito. So I just felt it's important we discuss them. So as always, let me thank sa lahat ng mga sumusuporta sa atin, thank you very much kay Fenny San Miguel for joining us, for Mitch Teng Show, of course, as always, kay Riz Ani, Ma'am Eden Olonan, kay Ma'am Lumberio, among others, Kat Rodriguez, also thank you for joining us, Arnold Evangelista, Noemi Tablate, among others. Thank you so much sa lahat ng magbigay ng stars and support and comments and suggestions. Para naman, maingganyo naman tayo pag-usapan ng mga issue na ito, no? Kasi ang daming pwedeng pag-usapan sa buhay, pero may paki tayo dito kasi alam din natin there are people there who also care about what we say in terms of our analysis and all. So thank you very much, guys, and talk to you soon, and have a blessed weekend and blessed Sabbath day, and hopefully we'll catch up with you guys early weekend to follow up on the latest things, including ang pagbisita ng ating Pangulo sa Davos, Switzerland, at kanyang mga speech as one of the 2 Asian leaders and only Asian leaders there. So social, next level, pag-usapan natin yan. Tignan natin ang mga bagong pledges na makukuha niya, what are the unique benefits that trip is going to bring for the Philippines, and whether he's going to be successful in rebranding the country and presenting us in a better way. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much. God bless, and have a blessed weekend.